to recap on the CSP program, to do this, we have to know and understand what Microsoft Volume Licensing is. Microsoft Volume Licensing, and the way Microsoft envisions it, it entails of three different streams: Microsoft Assisted, Self-Serve Web, and Value-Added Partners. Well, where you have to understand that the enterprise agreement is in the Microsoft Assisted space, where you have a direct relationship in contracting with Microsoft. Sometimes it might be indirect because there can be a licensing partner between it. But basically, that is the enterprise agreement space. Self-serve web is where you go to the Microsoft website, office365.com, for instance, and you start to buy the service through their website. Value-added partners, that is where the CSP program is. Value-added partners, meaning if you have a partner and you're buying your licenses through that partner, often what Microsoft wants is that partner adds value to the services that you buy, the Microsoft services that you buy. So this model is what Microsoft called the modern licensing model, and it will enhance and create synergies across three ways that I just explained. The modern licensing model is something that they're going to expand on towards the future. So right now, CSP is sitting in the value-added partners, and you sign up to something called the Microsoft Customer Agreement. In the end, all three models are going to the Microsoft Customer Agreement. That's the end game for Microsoft. So in due time, I don't know how long, because I've worked at Microsoft for 10 years and they've been discussing this for over 10 years. But in due time, this will move as well to the Microsoft Customer Agreement. What that would entail, how that would look like, what that would look like is still up for grabs. We don't know yet, but you might see, for instance, an enterprise agreement type model become available in the Microsoft Customer Agreement. Now back to the CSP program. What is it? It's a partner-led program, first and foremost. Partner sets the price, partner has the terms, though they have to take the terms of Microsoft into account in this, and partner takes over the end customer billing. So no more direct relationships with Microsoft. You can still have a direct relationship with Microsoft, but you don't have any support relationship with Microsoft or a billing relationship with Microsoft. The partner does the implementation. So partner directly provisions and manages your subscriptions that you as their end customer need. And they're the point of contact for customer support. No multi-level agreements like with the enterprise agreement, for instance. It's usually a single file agreement that you sign off. There's going to be Microsoft terms included in it, but also customer or partner specific terms that they have added to the Microsoft terms. This is a schema that I've taken from a very valuable website called Get Licensing Ready. If you don't know it, check it out. It's an official Microsoft resource for learning Microsoft licensing, but it gets the job done very well, explaining what the cloud solution provider program is and what it looks like. So on the left side of the house, you have this big enterprise figure. That's Microsoft. Microsoft has partners, and they make a distinction between direct partners and indirect providers. The relationship with direct partners and indirect providers is one where Microsoft sells the services and licenses to a direct partner or an indirect provider. So there's a financial relationship there, but also Microsoft has them sign the terms and conditions of the Microsoft Partner Agreement, or right now the Microsoft Customer Agreement even. The partner, direct or indirect, procures all the services that they might need to service their end customers. The partner also has to deliver the support. In the case of a direct partner would immediately contract with an end customer, being a company or an individual. Even if an individual wanted to buy through a CSP program, there's no limits on that. Partner is responsible for the support, and what the partner is obligated to sign with their end customers is at the bare minimum the Microsoft Customer Agreement. They can add their own terms and conditions to this, but they have to have the Microsoft Customer Agreement in place with the end customer that is using the software and the services of Microsoft. In the indirect model, what happens here is that you have an indirect provider. The indirect provider is the one that provides support to the end customer, but it doesn't have a billing relationship with the end customer because the billing relationship sits with the indirect reseller. So this indirect provider provides a framework or a portal or whatever for all kinds of second tier or second party resellers that want to resell Microsoft services to end customers, but aren't big enough or well equipped enough to be a direct partner of Microsoft. Because, for instance, they can't deliver the required support that Microsoft states as a necessity for direct partners. So the indirect provider does this for indirect resellers. Indirect resellers buy services from the indirect provider and are able to charge this to their end customers. How do they do this? The indirect provider signs the indirect reseller signs the terms and conditions from the indirect provider, and then signs an agreement with the end customer. Again, in this model, the end customer should always sign, as a minimum, the Microsoft Customer Agreement. Usually, the indirect provider also makes this mandatory for indirect resellers. So why do they have these two different models? It's quite simple. Larger organizations are up to the task to take over, for instance, the support, the billing, and everything to end customers. Smaller Microsoft partners might not be able to do this. So in order to be scalable and have many organizations act as Microsoft partners, they have created an indirect model where they don't have to have the relationship with all the tinier partners, but can have indirect providers in between. Moving on, if we look at the cloud solution provider product availability, I always check out the product terms website for the cloud services that might be available. Not everything is by default available in CSP, though it's starting to look like it, but always do check out what is available. I've taken a snip here from the Microsoft 365 overview, where you can see what products are all available in CSP and what products might be available in other programs. As you can see, CSP is quite diverse as it caters to Microsoft 365 for business, so for smaller organizations, but also Microsoft 365 E3 and E5 for larger organizations. Something that, for instance, the enterprise agreement doesn't cater to. You also see that things like add-ons or other things like, let me see, what's a good one? A5, something in the education space might not be available in CSP. So not everything is available. Most things will become available in CSP as well as, for instance, an EA or an open value contract. Aside from this, there's the option to include on-premises products in your CSP orders. These are available for the products you see in this table. For the desktop, you can buy Windows or Office or Project and Visio or the individual Office products. But you also have a large scale of infrastructure and data services like Windows Server, RDS, SQL Server, and productivity services like Exchange Server plus client access licenses, etc., etc. So the perpetual licenses are available in CSP. Microsoft has added these because they're getting rid of the open license program, as most of you know. Maybe in the future they will even remove SPLA, but I think that might be a bridge too far right now because there's a lot of large organizations raking in huge amount of money for Microsoft in the SPLA program. However, On-premises software is handled a bit differently from what you see in the cloud subscription space. And the rules are as follows. If you buy an on-premise software, you make a single upfront payment. This can, I believe, either be for 1 year or 3 years. And usually, if you choose 3 years, you pay it fully upfront. So no term payments like in an enterprise agreement, for instance. You have no software assurance available to purchase, as such, no SA rights, but you get SA equivalent rights. So if you check the product terms entry for most of the, for instance, SQL Server or Windows Server subscriptions, you will see that a lot of the rights that they grant to you might look similar to software assurance rights. It's always the current version that you're buying. You don't have the rights to use future versions unless you buy service subscriptions for Azure, like SQL or Windows Server. Downgrade, you can downgrade your software, so any prior version may be used and any permitted down edition may be used. And your downloads no longer go through the Volume Licensing Service Center portal, but through the M365 Admin Center, where you can download versions up to N-2, so current version -2 versions. Now, pricing wise, I've done a little check. So if you buy, for instance, a SQL Server Enterprise 2 Core subscription in an enterprise agreement subscription contract, it will cost you around 5,000 euros. In CSP, it will cost you around the same amount, a little bit less, but this is a list price, and the partner might always position a margin on top of this. As such, what you see here, level A in an enterprise agreement subscription doesn't differ that much from CSP. I wonder why they did that.